In a move that's sending shockwaves through the global economy, the United States has imposed a steep 50% tariff on copper imports from Canada, its largest trading partner and closest neighbor. This sudden decision has caught many by surprise, especially given the long history of cooperation between the two countries. The announcement is shaking the very foundations of North American trade, threatening to unravel decades of economic integration and mutual trust that have defined the region. But this dispute isn't just about copper. It's a test of the rules and agreements that have governed international commerce for generations, raising questions about the future of free trade and the reliability of long-standing alliances. By invoking national security as justification, the Trump administration is wielding a powerful tool, one that was once reserved for rare and extraordinary threats. Now it's being used against a close ally, setting a precedent that could have far-reaching consequences. The move has injected a fresh wave of uncertainty into global markets. Investors are on edge, and partners like Canada are left wondering what other industries might be targeted next, or if this signals a broader shift in U.S. trade policy. If the U.S. can target Canada, a country with which it shares one of the world's most integrated supply chains, what does that mean for the stability of industries built on decades of trust and collaboration? Factories are already feeling the pinch, with production lines slowing and inventories running low. The risk is clear: a tit-for-tat trade war, with Canada likely to retaliate in kind. This could quickly escalate, driving up costs for businesses and consumers on both sides of the border and straining diplomatic relations. For businesses and everyday consumers, this is more than just a policy debate. It could mean higher prices for essential goods, job losses in key industries, and a wave of uncertainty that ripples through the entire economy. Companies that rely on seamless cross-border trade now face new costs, unexpected delays, and a maze of regulatory hurdles. The once smooth flow of goods is now at risk, threatening livelihoods and business plans. The copper dispute is more than a trade disagreement. It's a real-world test of a partnership that has long been held up as a model for international cooperation and economic integration. The outcome of this standoff will shape the future of North American trade for years to come, determining whether the region moves forward in cooperation or slides into conflict and division. The U.S. and Canada have one of the world's largest trading relationships, but it's been anything but smooth. From steel and aluminum to softwood lumber, trade disputes have tested this partnership for decades. Canada has shown it will fight back, targeting politically sensitive U.S. goods in retaliation. Despite trade agreements like NAFTA and USMCA, the U.S. has used national security tariffs to bypass the rules. Each conflict leaves scars and breeds distrust, making cross-border business riskier. The copper tariff is just the latest chapter in a long, complicated story. Canada's response will be swift and firm, defending its industries against what it sees as another unjustified U.S. move. On July 30, 2025, President Trump announced a 50% tariff on certain imported copper products, effective immediately. The tariff targets the value of copper within products like pipes, tubes, and electrical wire, not the full product price. Raw copper materials and scrap are excluded, protecting U.S. manufacturers who rely on these imports. Some auto parts already subject to other tariffs are exempt to avoid double taxation. The goal: make foreign copper goods pricier, pushing companies to buy American. But the complex rules and rapid rollout have left businesses scrambling to adapt. Navigating this new landscape is now a costly challenge for importers and manufacturers. Canada's response was immediate. Prime Minister Trudeau called the tariff unacceptable and promised swift retaliation. Ottawa is preparing a dollar-for-dollar response, likely targeting U.S. goods from politically sensitive regions. The aim: maximize pressure on Washington by hitting products that matter to key U.S. constituencies. Canada's playbook includes both economic retaliation and legal challenges under USMCA and the WTO. During past disputes, Canada targeted items like whiskey and yogurt to send a political message. This time, expect a similar strategy: retaliation designed to hurt where it counts. Legal action will run in parallel, arguing the tariff violates trade agreements. Canada's goal: defend its industries, uphold trade rules, and force a negotiated end. The stage is set for a high-stakes trade battle. Every year, Canada exports a staggering $3.5 billion in copper and copper products to the United States. making it one of America's most important and reliable suppliers of this essential metal. Copper is the backbone of modern infrastructure, and this cross-border trade is vital for both economies. But the relationship isn't one-sided. Trade flows both ways. U.S. copper exports to Canada total $1.8 billion annually, highlighting just how deeply integrated the North American copper market has become. This two-way exchange supports jobs, innovation, and manufacturing on both sides of the border. Copper doesn't just cross the border once. Often, raw copper is shipped from Canada to the US, refined or turned into semi-finished products, and then sent back as finished goods. This back-and-forth movement is a testament to the complex, interconnected supply chains that power North American industry. Now, a new tariff threatens to upend this delicate balance. Disruptions could ripple through the entire supply chain, causing delays, uncertainty, and higher costs for manufacturers and workers on both sides of the border. While the U.S. does mine copper, mainly in Arizona and Utah, domestic production falls short of what American industries need. That's why imports, especially from Canada, are so crucial to keeping factories running and projects on track. The administration hopes that by making imported copper more expensive, U.S. mining and refining will ramp up. But in the short term, it's manufacturers and consumers who will feel the pinch as higher costs work their way through the economy. Hundreds of millions of dollars in new costs could hit American businesses, especially those in construction, electronics, and the auto industry, sectors that rely heavily on copper for everything from wiring to circuit boards to vehicle components. This is a direct tax on U.S. manufacturers, warns one analyst. Experts caution that these tariffs could make American-made products less competitive, both at home and abroad. Companies now face a tough choice: absorb the higher costs and risk shrinking profits, or pass them on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Either way, the result could be more inflation and economic strain for everyday Americans. The numbers don't lie. This is more than just a political maneuver. It's a major economic event with far-reaching consequences for businesses, workers, and families across the continent. As the copper connection between the US and Canada faces new challenges, the ripple effects will be felt in every corner of North America, shaping the future of trade, industry, and daily life. This tariff isn't just a headline, it's a real policy with real consequences that ripple through the entire economy. It hits workers, businesses, and consumers directly, affecting daily life in ways that might not be obvious at first glance. Whether you're clocking in at a factory, running a small business, or simply shopping for your family, tariffs can change what you pay and what you earn. For Americans, expect to see higher prices on everyday essentials, cars, appliances, and even home renovations as the cost of copper and other materials rises. These price hikes don't just affect big purchases, they can trickle down to smaller items too, making it harder for families to stretch their budgets. While the administration claims these tariffs will protect U.S. mining jobs, the reality is that far more Americans work in industries that use copper, like construction, electronics, and manufacturing, than in mining itself. These sectors depend on affordable materials to stay competitive and keep people employed. Higher input costs could force companies to make tough choices, like layoffs, wage freezes, or even cutting back on hours. Manufacturing and construction jobs are especially vulnerable, and uncertainty can stall new projects or expansions. Canadian workers face even greater risks, with thousands of jobs threatened by lost U.S. sales. Factories may close, and communities that rely on cross-border trade could see their local economies shrink. If Canada retaliates with tariffs of its own, American exporters in agriculture and manufacturing could also suffer. Farmers, truck drivers, and factory workers might find fewer buyers for their goods, leading to more job losses and financial strain. Trade wars breed uncertainty, making businesses hesitant to invest, expand, or hire new workers. When companies can't predict costs or demand, they often hold back, slowing economic growth for everyone. The result is a chain reaction of economic pain, spreading from small businesses to families on both sides of the border. Communities may see fewer jobs, lower wages, and less opportunity, making it harder for everyone to get ahead. One tariff can set off a wave of consequences that touch everyone, from the factory floor to the family dinner table, reminding us that trade policies are never just about numbers, they're about people's lives. Economists and industry leaders are sounding the alarm over the copper tariff. Most experts agree. Tariffs act as a tax on your own economy, raising prices and inviting retaliation. History shows tariffs hurt more than they help, says Dr. Emily Vance of the Peterson Institute. Home builders warn the tariff will make new homes even less affordable. Auto and electronics groups echo similar concerns about rising costs. The American Copper Producers Alliance, however, supports the move, arguing it will revive domestic mining. Financial analysts warn of market volatility and increased risk as the U.S. Canada dispute escalates. The business community is deeply divided, but most see more downside than upside. The consensus: this is a high-stakes gamble with broad economic risks. Where does this end? There are three main scenarios. First, a quick compromise. Negotiations lead to a deal, tariffs are lifted, and both sides claim victory. Second, a full-blown trade war. Canada retaliates, the US escalates, and both economies suffer. Third, a drawn-out stalemate. Tariffs and countermeasures drag on, with legal battles at the USMCA and WTO. Businesses adapt by shifting supply chains, but at a high cost. The outcome depends on political will in Washington and Ottawa, and pressure from affected industries. Both governments must weigh protecting their industries against the risk of prolonged economic pain. The choices made now will shape the future of North American trade. Will this be a short skirmish or a lasting conflict? The stakes couldn't be higher. This copper dispute is about more than metal. It's a crossroads for global trade and alliances. For decades, open markets and rules-based systems have driven prosperity. Now, economic power is being used as a weapon, even against allies. When trust breaks down, everyone pays, through higher prices, lost jobs, and economic instability. The U.S.-Canada relationship has survived past storms, but this test is different. The resolution will send a message. Will cooperation or conflict define the future? In a world this interconnected, there are no real winners in a trade war. The outcome of this dispute will echo far beyond copper.